All right, what up? Once again, we're back. We're gonna do it again. This is your boy Texas Jayhawk. Got my boy Eric Foster. Just talking ball. Appreciate the feedback. I know we got it out late. We're gonna get this one out sooner. Got it out late. Like I said, this is an amateur production, and we're out here trying to have a little fun and just like I say, share what we're getting and just try to, help out the football world, contribute to the football universe. What's going on, Eric?
What's going on, David? What a week, man. What a week we had. What a week we're gonna have.
Oh
Right. I'm
man.
excited to get out of this log jam at the top of the Big 12.
I know it definitely was a exciting week. Hear that? You hear that? I don't. Man, that runs chills up my spine. I don't know what's going. I don't know what's going on with that. But I just let's let's talk about that. Let me see what we're gonna get into this on this episode. So we got a couple trending topics we're gonna talk about. Coach Swinney, man, and on what he went through, like say, just that's just what's trending. We're not on here to be gossipers or whatever, but we just take interest in certain things. And I think this particular thing resonated with me and Eric, both from a coach's standpoint and from a dedicated fan standpoint. We're gonna talk about the first week of the college football playoff rankings, and then something exciting. I'm excited about this. We're supposed to be going somewhere this weekend, but this college football red zone that they're talking about premiering, I don't know, man. I might have to DVR it or something because I definitely want to check that out. We're gonna recap KUOU, great game. The Texas BYU game. We're gonna go around the Big 12, get some chalk talk, and give you our humble predictions. I'm not gonna talk about what the prediction was last week on the Kansas OU game. That
No, man, give yourself some credit, man. You were spot on, and hey, we're gonna get it as good as we give it, and we're gonna get more wrong than we get right.
No doubt, you're right.
So let's take the wins where they are. Yeah.
Give you flowers while you're here. Let me take these flowers while I can. By no means, I mean it was definitely from this much of an analyst perspective, and this much from a fan, and just wanting to see KU do well. And I mean, 38-33, with a prediction of 38-35, man. That was special. That was fun. So first thing we're gonna get into, man, we're gonna talk about Coach Swinney, and on his radio show, he had a frustrated caller. I think Clemson's 4-4 right now. I think, if I'm not mistaken, so we're not really focusing on other people, just some things in the Big 12. But caller called in and really gave it to him. So we're gonna play a little clip of what Coach Swinney's response was to that.
That you want, all right? I don't know how old you are. Don't really care, all right? But let me tell you something. We won 11 games last year, and you're part of the problem, to be honest with you, because that is part of the problem. It's people like you that all you do is the appreciation, the expectation is greater than the appreciation, and that's the problem. And so, we've won 12 10-plus win seasons in a row. That's happened 3 times in 150 years. So if you want to know why, Clemson ain't won a national championship for 35 years. We've won 2 in 7 years. And there's only 2 other teams that can say that, Georgia and Alabama, okay? Is this a bad year? Is this yeah. And it's my responsibility. Take 100% responsibility for it. But all this bull crap you're thinking, all these narratives you read, listen, man, you can have your opinion all you want, and you can apply for the job, and good luck to you. But at Clemson, there's an appreciation. And what's happened at Clemson is we've won so much that even when it used to be the fun's in the winning, now even when you win, people like you complain and criticize the coaches and question everything. People like you, all right, when I hired Tony Elliott to be the offensive coordinator who never called a play in his life, I'm sure you were critical then, all right, and he took us to 2 national championships. People like you who just love to destroy people with your comments, all right, I'm sure you've never made any bad decisions. I'm sure you've lived a perfect life. I'm sure you've led a bunch of people. I'm sure you do your job in front. So to answer your question, I started as the lowest paid coach in this freaking business, all right? And I'm where I am because I've worked my ass off every single day. And I ain't going to let some smart-ass kid get on this phone and create this stuff. So if you got a problem with it, I don't care.
I mean, I had some idiot go Old Testament on me, and he got an Old Testament response.
So what do you think?
You know, I come at this a little different. I just defended Dabo. What was it? A week ago when he came out in the press conference and he told everyone, you know, the play was supposed to be a give, right? And I had some friends, quite a bit of friends. I was actually, you know, probably a lone wolf, saying, you know, I didn't feel like he threw the kid under the bus. I feel like he was asked a very direct, very pointed question from the reporter, and he answered it. This feels petty. It feels
frustration. It's some frustration.
It feels a little. It feels a way that we've all felt before. It feels a little crybaby-ish, to be honest, right? Because here's the thing: you stand up there and you take the credit when you're hoisting the trophies. You got to take the credit when you're not playing well. And it's not an injury thing. It's not a talent thing. It's not the things that are outside of your control. So I know it's probably really frustrating to be a victim of your own success, because that's what it is. Candidly, he's the one that has raised the expectations at Clemson, but you've raised them. And it is what it is. Anybody that's in a performance-based job knows that when you meet a certain standard or when you get to a certain level, that's the level. And nobody cares what it was before you got there, before you raised it. They care what it is now.
What have you done for me lately? Yeah,
exactly. So he's getting paid $1 million a game, right? So he's a $12 million a year coach. He's getting paid $1 million a game. So Clemson fans have paid, and Clemson administration has paid $4 million to lose. So they're frustrated. And they've got questions, and you've got to answer those questions. Now, I didn't hear, we all heard the response. I didn't hear the question.
And it's a long, question was asked. It was a long, I mean, I think, you know, just grazing over it and kind of skimming through it. It was a extended session of complaints, should I say. And I think once he listened, because it was on his radio show, and I think once he listened longer and longer, he can kind of hear maybe some, I don't want to say immaturity, or just maybe it was a young kid or someone. And we're not trying to say a 12-year-old, 16-year-old, 18, 20-year-old opinion doesn't matter, because they love the sport. We love the sport all our lives as well. But it's just, you know, I think it was a mixture of, I'm frustrated. And while I'm doing this radio show, I could be in the office getting ready for the next game.
Absolutely.
And, you know, getting people, you know, hearing all this criticism and, you know, wanting to protect his players and show that, you know, we're down, but we're not quitting, you know. Instead of me wasting my time listening to this, what they say, young kid or young punk, whatever you call them, I could be in the office,
smart-ass
you know,
kid,
preparing. So I think from the coach's standpoint, it's frustration. And I think the war we live in, you hear that right now. You hear that right now. You hear it all the time. You've got to, you know, almost do like LeBron James. What does LeBron James do when during the playoffs? Turns radio silence. He turns his social media off and he goes away. And that's kind of the deal. Yeah, everybody wants to check their phone when something's going good, and you like I say you're winning and all that. But when you know when it goes bad, you know, it's here we go. So I just think,
and you got to stand there and you got to take it though. I felt like he really could have just said, you know, we're not performing to the Clemson standard. I know that, you know that. You hear coaches all the time. Nobody's more frustrated about it than us. Nobody's sadder than those kids in the locker room, right? You say that and you move on. You get into this diatribe back and forth with a kid probably, and now you seem petty and you seem small.
But I think there's always different groups represented, and I think he represented a professional group that's always wanted to do that, and there are certain groups that can do, like if Coach Saban were to do that, people that have been winning, you know, it's going to be taken.
And I'm not gonna, so quit asking.
It's going to be accepted a little more than a fifth-year head coach who's been 600, you know, win levels, and then they're going to eat them up. And at the same time, like he talks about, is, you know, what coaches put into it. Nobody signs up to lose. Nobody gets in the sports to lose, you know. And you know, sometimes that's forgotten, you know. And I know when people say they pay, I mean, this kid didn't personally put any money towards his contract, but you know, he's probably a ticket holder. He buys merchandise, so everything goes into it. But the fact that, you know, sometimes you may feel as a coach, I'm giving my all, and all y'all are doing is tearing us down, because at the end of the day, wins and losses is all that matters. But when you go back to the film room and you see, we're one play away here, we're one, you know, step away from here, but people don't want to hear that, and it's tough because that's what matters, because those are the little things that ultimately lead to winning, you know. So you see improvement where we talked about last time, that clock is very small, the time limit to turn a program around, to get things going. Like say, victim of your own success. Same thing on a smaller scale of what Alabama's going through. You know, people, you know, when they lost to Texas, they wanted to throw the whole season out the window, you know, and I mean, golly, you know, so it's tough. I'm not going to get here and put myself in the same boat of like, oh, people that don't know, you know, but still, there's a way to do things. You can do what you want. You're entitled to your own opinion, but I think that it's a way to do things, you know, and it's tough, you know, when, you know, I use the term, you know, critics with no credentials, you know, and it's tough. I mean, if somebody was, you know, complaining about how their scar healed from a surgery, I'm not gonna get on here and say, you know what, golly, that doctor should have done a better job when he, you know, sutured. I don't know nothing about that, you know, like it's so critical. But at the same time, some people also say, well, you're getting paid $1 million a game to take that, so just shut your mouth and take it. So, you know, like I said, there are different perspectives of it, you know. Like I said, I think a group was represented, you know, and he handled it, I think, in a petty way, you say, but he handled it very professionally, because he could have got on there and lost it and cursed and got fined or got reprimanded or whatever, you know. So
I almost would have preferred that, you know, if you're gonna do it, you know, let it hang, man. Just if you're gonna jump. You know, I don't, you know me, I've never been a 1 foot in, 1 foot out kind of guy. If I'm gonna do it, I'm doing it.
Yeah, and you know, and that's just what it is, man. And that's where we are. And like I say, they're facing some challenges, but you know, I wish him all the best, because I know what it is to be a winner, and I also know what it is to get your teeth kicked in every game, you know, on any level. So, you know, so that's it. All right, we're gonna move on, man. First week of the college football playoff. What are you thinking? I'm gonna jump in first. Say I see them Jayhawks at 21. Now, some people that, like I say, the people that just want to see their team on top. Oh, that's 21. Well, you know what? We weren't even in the conversation last year. So, you know, I'm proud of our program, but go ahead. Tell me what you think about these.
Not just last year. If I read correctly, that was the first year ever that Kansas had been ranked in the college football playoff. So,
no doubt.
Congratulations. You always love to see certain programs move into an echelon that they haven't been a part of. Here you go with that. No real surprises. I think there were some open questions just from general fans. What would the committee do with Michigan surrounding all of the extracurricular off the field stuff going on with them? Would they be penalized for that? Would other teams like Texas, like LSU, like Tennessee, would they be punished for key injuries, right? Because allegedly the committee's taking that into account. But everything's as you would expect. The top four is as you would expect.
A lot of people complaining about that 1 and 2.
You know what? It doesn't matter right now, and I think there's a fine line between
overreaction.
Overreaction. Steve Sarkisian did a little politicking last week. I think that's what you have to do when you're on the fringe, when you're on that outside. But when you're in the 1 through 4, it doesn't matter. It matters to the number 1 team at the end, because they get to pick where they play. Right. So you want to be as close to your fan base and as close to home as possible and make the road a little bit easier that way. But otherwise, if you're in the top 4, you've got national championship aspirations, right? I've got to beat all these guys anyway.
Exactly.
I've got to line up on a neutral field and I got to beat these guys.
You can't politic your spot to avoid or dodge someone.
Correct. But honestly, I think between the top 8 teams, marginal difference on a neutral field.
I agree, because you can flip 4 and 5 easily. You can flip 6 and 7 easily. I mean, obviously you're going to keep Texas ahead of Alabama, but I think Texas is better than Oregon.
Honestly, in my opinion, I did think Texas had the better win. I know that Texas has played the tougher schedule. But Oregon, with the eyes of the college football world in the 2 games that they've had in prime time against Colorado and against Utah, they did what they were supposed to do. They went out and they showed up and they showed out, and they're benefiting for it. But again, all of these things will play out. Texas will have another opportunity against a probably top 10 or potentially top 10 Oklahoma team, or you replace them with, if they lose in Bedlam this weekend, right, another top 15 Oklahoma State team. All of these teams that are on the fringe, Oregon and Washington will have a chance in the Pac-12 championship game, you would assume. I think Washington still has Utah to play, right? So all of these things will shake out, and the teams, I'm confident more than ever this year that the teams that are supposed to get there will get there.
Yeah, I think Ole Miss is quietly they're just quietly climbing the ranks, man, and they're gonna be somewhere in there. I mean, Jackson Dart.
Are they gonna get it done? Are they gonna go to?
Exactly.
I believe they've got to go to Athens.
But I think I think they'll benefit.
Me on that. Yeah,
there'll be a benefit from what the SEC will do, because, like you say, it was LSU Alabama this weekend. So, you know, if LSU gets the upset, then, you know, that kind of shakes things up and kind of pushes people, you know, around a little bit. But, like, they still got to take care of their own business. Obviously, I know that. I don't know who Ole Miss has off the top of my head, but I mean, Texas has Kansas State. Yeah, they have Kansas State this week.
So, A&M goes to Oxford this weekend.
Oxford, okay. So, I mean, there's
some baby.
Exactly. Well, like I say, this is just week one. We wanted to touch on it. I mean, it's a beautiful thing. You know, things are really starting to shape out. I mean, golly, week 10 of the season already. I mean, it's flying, man. But that's wild. So I'm excited. I know we're going to touch on a couple of the Big 12 games specifically. So talking real quick about this this college football red zone, man. It was Pat McAfee show this morning, talked about it with Reese Davis, and Reese is gonna kind of push it and, you know, do all the commentating. And I don't know what Pat McAfee is gonna pull. How's he gonna add to that? But I mean, I'm excited. You know, with college football, it's really a lot about who gets this game, what network gets this game. I mean, I guess my biggest question from a more boring standpoint is, how do you get everybody to agree to give access to, I guess, ESPN to show a Fox game? Is that how it's gonna go? If I'm not, I'm really asking that question. If anybody out there knows, but like, how are you going to get a Fox game on ESPN to kind of red zone it or show what's going on at a crucial moment?
They used to do a college football red zone equivalent. Okay. I don't know what stopped it, and I know it was channel agnostic, so I don't know. I would imagine in that instance they probably just got rules. You can't show more than 2 minutes of a game at a time, or what have you. Anything that would pull or for as long as I think there's a way, because all they care about is eyeballs and ratings, right? So I think there's a way to track, in the Nielsen, if I'm showing a Fox game for 2 minutes, which I think is what triggers a view. If I'm showing it for that 2 minutes, then Fox gets credit for that view, right?
Okay,
they're watching that channel. So ultimately, it's a money game. That's all it is.
Yeah.
But to your point, I think Pat McAfee is must see TV.
Yeah, he is. He is.
I wonder though. He's got to get to. I think they're going to Tuscaloosa, so he's got to get from Tuscaloosa at 11 to Indianapolis and set up for a studio show, which I think is a little bit harder than if you're going to roll into a booth or roll into the sideline. Get set up for a studio show for the primetime games, which I think is that 6 p.m. time slot that they're going to.
Those guys are balling, man. Private jets, whatever.
ESPN's paying for all that. I just know I think it'll be a little more difficult. So I'm excited just to see, now that we're in this production game, right? We know how difficult it is to get a damn stream up and running. So, I'm excited to see how they're going to do all that just from this perspective.
No doubt. Well, it'll definitely be exciting. Well, boom. Let's talk about what we came here for, man. Do you want to go first, or you want me to go first?
I'll give you the floor first, man. You're basking. You have a visible glow, so I'm gonna let you have it.
It's a blessing. What a time to be alive, and what a time to be a Kansas Jayhawk fan. And man, just talking about this game. I mean, it came with a lot of anticipation. You just didn't know what was going to happen. I mean, hats off right now to Jason Bean. I mean, he came in, led our team to another bowl eligible win against an Oklahoma team. And I think right there, that play really set the tone for the whole day. I mean, they were flying around. You get a pick six on a great quarterback in Dylan Gabriel. And I mean, I don't know how many picks he has off the top of my head for the year, but I think he missed the throw, but I'm not sitting here and gonna, bash anyone, but just, hats off to a total team win, a fourth down stop right there. And I mean, I think I was looking at the stats. I mean, Oklahoma went for it 2 times on fourth down, and they were 1 or 2. I mean, Kansas went for it on fourth down 2 or 3. So, I mean, weather was an issue. You know, I was at a basketball game watching this game on my iPad, and then they had the weather delay. And well, when that weather delay came, man, it was really a deal where it could have been a good thing or a bad thing, and you know, it ended up
Oklahoma was
benefiting
getting on a
Oklahoma.
roll, right?
Exactly, and
We
they
were
were
talking during this
gashing
game.
us. Yeah, we were, and they started gashing, started pounding the rock, man, running the ball and doing a lot of good things, and we couldn't stop the bleeding, man. And you know, we came back and you know, we weathered that storm, you know, and I had some stuff written down here, you know, and it was just a deal where you could feel, you know, that sometimes you know, Kansas wanted more. You know, sometimes you say, I'm not going to sit here and say nothing was luck. You know, you got to make the plays when it's time. That was a big fourth down. I thought if they didn't get that fourth down right there, I'm kind of just watching this, we're talking, that would have put Oklahoma away, because, you know, 21-0, that's hard to overcome. I don't care where you at. But I know weather was a deal. It was raining the whole time, and that kind of took the air out of the ball as far as for Oklahoma really wanting to, you know, throw it around. And I tell you what, man, Dillon Gabriel, I mean, he's underrated as a runner. I mean, he caused some trouble for us in the run game. So, I mean, the fact of the matter, you know, he scored, I think, 2 touchdowns on the ground, you know, for them, and they came back and tied it up right there. And, you know, and you still had a halftime to go and adjust. And I mean, this game, it went long, man. So, I mean, you know, I thought Jason Bean did well. I mean, you talk about overall stats and comparing offensively these two teams right here. Total yards of offense, Oklahoma 440, Kansas had 443. Oklahoma ran 74 plays, Kansas ran 73 plays. Now, right there, turnover, that, you know, big thing. So Oklahoma lost 2 fumbles. They fumbled twice and lost 2 fumbles. We fumbled once right there, and we lost 1. Okay, but also on the other hand, we also threw 2 interceptions. But like I say, hats off to defense to really bending but not breaking, you know, against these guys. And even on the 2-point conversions, oh my God, we were so bad. I mean, I say Oklahoma was bad too, but you know, the love of my team, we were 0 for 3 on 2-point conversions, and I think OU was 0 for 2. So I mean, you know, it was a deal where I think it was a very, very, very evenly matched game right there. People will say that was the play of the game. I agree. As a coach, I almost threw up when he threw it, because it was like, this is about to be an interception. But the wherewithal, the luck, the skill, whatever you want to call it, for Skinner to get his feet in bounds, reestablish himself, and thank God he wasn't the first person to touch the ball when he caught it. That was huge for us. And I think, you know, that ultimately he came back and he hits that Skinner again. No, that's Fairchild, our big tight end. I mean, that Mason is a big time player, man. I mean, I can go on. And I made this clip just so we wouldn't be talking about it too long. So did you get a chance to watch much of it or any of it at all?
Yeah, so I watched the game, and it really it would have been in its entirety had the game ended on time. But since it ran long, but no, I watched it, and I think we had a chance to chat back and forth a little bit during the course of the game. And I thought Kansas came out with their hair on fire. They were playing well. The concern, you know, a couple concerns throughout, though. I thought the turnovers, I thought they might get you. At the end of the game, I think, you know, one of the questions in the group chat was like, is Jason Bean point shaving? Like he was turning the ball over every chance he got, you know, but ultimately found a way to win at home, primetime game, tough, one of the toughest opponents you'll play all year. Right. So I think Kansas found something inside themselves that they may or may not have known that they had, because Oklahoma, you know, despite the recent success versus Texas in the last 5-6 years, they hadn't had that against Oklahoma. You know, it was always close, but no cigar.
Exactly.
So no, it was an impressive win. I think Jason Bean may be underrated as a runner, because my eyes kind of got big when you said Dillon Gabriel's
best quarterback, best backup quarterback in the nation.
Well, let me see. He's got what, 8 starts under his belt. Let me well, when we get to the Texas game, we'll talk about that in a bit. But no, I thought Dillon, you know, you said Dillon Gabriel was underrated as a runner. I was like, by who? You know, he should have made everybody a believer in the Cotton Bowl. You know, damn sure did of me. So knew that would be a problem.
He doesn't stick out like just within the game. He makes it happen. It's not like we're going to come in and say we're going to zone read the hell out of you guys and that quarterback his legs, but he is effective and he is a solid dude and he's physical. I mean, he's not sliding or shying away from any hits, man. So hats off to him.
Agreed.
man. But that was big. I mean, so big homecoming win, upset number 6 Oklahoma Sooners, sellout crowd, even though the weather played a factor in it. But I think ticket sales. Well, I mean, it was a sellout crowd. First win against Oklahoma in 26 years.
Yep.
Last win was in 1997. I was fortunate enough to be a part of that team. We talked. They actually showed that graphic, and they kept beating it to death. Okay, that was the last time we beat them. Okay, now you can't say that anymore. So I guess that's kind of how TV goes. We're gonna bang the hell out of this. Oh, it's been so long, and now they did it, so now you can't say it.
Makes a better story,
I guess, yeah. So, like I said, Jason Bean gets to wear that title again of leading his team to be bowl eligible for the second consecutive year. 5-0 at home this year, and 9-2 at home the last 2 years. So, the booth is becoming a place. You can't just walk into the booth and win. So hats off to the Kansas Jayhawks.
Any quarterback, any QB1 controversy when Jalen Daniels gets healthy?
I watched the early clip of Coach Leipold and just talking about, and a guy made a comment, and everybody has different philosophies about starting backups, injuries, what have you. The thing I've always lived, or been a part of and used coaching wise was you don't lose your job to injury. You don't lose your job to injury. So a guy asked coach and he said, well, what will Jalen Daniels have to do to get his starting job back? And coach kind of looked at him and said, we're not there yet. We're not there yet. When we're there, when we're there, I'll let you know. I think that was a great answer because it's unfair. I mean, do you not think Jalen Daniels wants to be out there and be a part of this success and play ball and lead his team? Yeah. And I mean, I saw him. He was all smiles on the sideline, man. He was helping out. He was locked into the game. He wasn't just sitting around there joking and poking and having a good time. And he had his coat on and he's dressed out. I assume he warmed up and went through pregame to see how his back felt. But even after the game, he's on his live Instagram, man, and he's celebrating his teammates. He's celebrating his counterpart, his quarterback. So I mean, just hats off to him for that too. So I mean, it's a good thing, and I know it's the media's job to ask questions, but you're dealing with young people and you're dealing with I hate to use this term fragile egos, but that's what it is. I mean, right. He wants to be there. So he doesn't need to be reminded of, oh, you were losing your job. Oh, look what Jason Bean did and what you didn't do, And the same thing, I think I saw Jason Bean was in tears. He was so elated on the win, and he led his team because I know he's going through a lot of criticism and unsureness from, people around there. But I mean, golly, man, hats off to him. I'm not going to hold on it long. I do have something special, though. Caught up with an old teammate of mine, one of my favorite Jayhawks, guy named Eric VANN, who was also the starting running back on the 1997 team, and him and I caught up and we had a good time together. So check this out. All right, we're here. I've got a special guest. This is big time, man. Seeing this guy's face, just I need to intro El Dorado, the pride of El Dorado, Kansas. One of my mentors and heroes. One of my favorite Jayhawks, two-sport athlete Jayhawk, by the way. People don't understand how big that is. Just a great guy. I call him a brother, man. He took care of me, him, and his wife now, who was his fiance back then when I was a skinny old 17-year-old that thought I could come in and just run the rock. And I'm from Texas and this and that. Eric VANN, man. What's going on, man?
Hey, what's up, David? How are you? Good to see you.
Oh, you too, man. I mean, we talked, this is probably the first time, we've been on camera together in 20-some years.
Yeah, it has been. That's right.
Yeah,
but having pads on.
Oh, I know, man. I think back about those times, man, just, meeting you and how great you were to me. And we're going to get into all that. And we're going to talk, just the type of teammate, the person you are, man. I know you got a son that's playing now, that's doing big things, that's, been to KU already for a visit. And you've got to be so proud. That's awesome. But first things first, we're going to give love to our Jayhawks, man, and talk about the big things they're doing and that big one against Oklahoma this past week. And I know you was watching it.
Yeah, man, it was really cool because I felt like we could win, and I talked to another former player, Isaac Bird, who played NFL for a little bit.
Big time, oh yeah.
Yeah, felt like we could win, and just we've always said there's no reason not to win at Kansas. Period in the story, because the facilities, the fan base, and even forget about that. The campus, the academics, the
Yes.
whole thing, right? Like
Yes.
you have it all, and then if you're a football player, you got basketball too that you can watch.
Mhm.
I mean, there's nothing that's devoid in that area
No.
to keep
No.
us from being a winner. We've shown it.
Yes.
When you're
No.
there, we were there. We've shown it at spurts with Mangino. So I mean,
Mhm.
it's this is not uncommon. When I we just got to keep the consistency.
Exactly. And and I say it all the time, man. We live in a what have you done for me lately society now, man. And when you take a special interest, like we both, went to KU, and like, yes, there's nothing wrong with the historical significance that Kansas basketball has. And it's so great and it's so good, and they win so much and they do so well. It's like, golly, you gotta do so much just to be recognized, but they're doing it because
Yeah.
Lightpost got them doing it, man. And I mean, just 2 years in a row bowl eligible. So, that's big, and beating the top, 10 team at home, that's huge,
Well,
And
the key is these guys aren't scared of anybody, and that's the
yeah,
thing, right? I
yes,
mean, we all know the 6 inches between your ears. We
that's
understand
it.
what that looks like. One of the things when we used to play Nebraska, I felt like we were beat before we played
Oh
them
man.
because of the end on their helmet,
Yeah, yeah.
But and then you'd see some of those guys transfer out or go somewhere else. They're just normal players, just like we were, right?
Yep.
So it's a
Yep.
mindset, and I think that once you have that mindset, and the biggest thing is when you have the fans behind you
Hmm.
and you got a full stadium and you got that just gets everybody just jacked up. One, you got recruits that want to come in, and then you start. Listen, I've been a Kansas basketball player. I've been a fan forever. No,
Hmm.
I grew up, born, raised, all that. But something about football drives the universities, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
Hmm.
there's just you got 70, 60,000 people or whatever it is there. I mean, that's a big deal. So
Yeah.
great,
Yeah.
great win. I say like how do we lose to Oklahoma State, which we should have won, then we beat
I,
Oklahoma, right?
I
I
know. I
mean,
know.
it's just football.
And you're right. And some people will say, "Oh, that's Kansas being Kansas," but a lot of times, if you're not there, if you're not right there on the inside, you don't know. Like they practice too, man. They recruit kids too. I mean, they
Yeah.
want to win too. I mean, this is the Big 12 Division I football. This is not nobody's going to lay down. I don't care what the record is going into the game. You still got to play the game.
Yep.
And and
Yeah.
and you. And you're used to that, and I try to jump back real quick. You talk about, fans being behind you. And I remember when I stepped on campus, we had that following because, at that time, Kansas was only 1 year removed from being a bowl team. And you was on that
Yeah.
95 Aloha Bowl team who was, what were y'all ranked 9 or 10? I mean, I know
Yeah, we
y'all.
finished ninth in the country.
Yeah. So, I
And
mean,
actually our the junior year we had a better team than the
see,
sophomore year.
that's
That
crazy.
just tells you about mentality that we had more talent. I think we had 9 or 10 guys coming back on offense
Hmm.
and a lot of the backups too,
Yeah.
and defense. And it just tells you, man, it's just so they can say what they want to about the conference. It's so good when I mean,
Yeah.
you can play Iowa State to Baylor's, the Texas Techs, obviously Oklahoma State to Oklahoma's. You play all those week in and week out. There's nothing given,
Yeah,
nothing.
and like you say, exactly. And nobody's gonna lay down. I don't care what the record says. But getting back to the Oklahoma game, man. So they talked about it, and we were both watching, and the big thing was, oh, Kansas hadn't beat them since 1997. So give a little
Yeah,
context. That was my true freshman year, and Eric Vann's senior year.
yeah,
So I stepped on campus, and I just didn't know. Eric Vann had been there. He had backed up another running back who's a great back in June Henley, and LT Levine, and there were guys that were just there, and it wasn't like this these days of kids transferring out because they're maybe not playing or they don't want to play their role. And
right.
I remember getting recruited, and I remember the highlight tape, and I remember, and I was big into that, and so they're losing their running backs. Okay, well, see, then I watch. In fact, ironically, I watch a highlight against Oklahoma in Norman, and they kick off to Eric Vann. He returns this. I think that's the record. Is that was the KU
The
record for?
106 yards by the end of the
Yes.
year. Yeah,
And
yeah,
I'm like, oh, they're gonna redshirt me because this dude is so good, And when you're a freshman and you come in, I expect to play, but it's a learning curve. But when I got there, man, I mean, it was it was it was the exact opposite, man. And and I jumped forward to that OU game because I had a chance to play, and we traveled together, we roommated together on the road,
yeah.
and and I have so much to say, because y'all got to understand.
Well,
that
was a good experience. I'm sure that was a great experience for you rooming with me.
Well, I'm not gonna get into that because like I said, everybody's not entitled to know what goes on. You gotta earn your stripes. Just know that it was some fun, healthy big brothering going on.
Yeah,
and I kept coming back for more, man. But going back to that game '97, we were a good team. I can't remember the exact record, but I don't know. We may have just had one loss.
5-6 we had to beat Texas.
Yes. In Austin.
Ricky Williams was still there in Austin.
Yeah, but I think at that point in the season, we were like 4-1 or 5-1. I think we only had one loss. That was to Cincinnati, and we had we had beat a good Missouri team. Beat TCU. And I remember, OU. I mean, they had a guy named DeMond Parker, and I'm just stretching my memory now. Who was a running back? Who was a Heisman Trophy finalist at the time, and he was good, man. But we go into that game, and I did everything you did. Warmed up the way you did. I tried to dress the way you did. I just wasn't as big as you. You were 215 pounds of muscle.
I was 215, 220, yeah.
And I was 160 pounds. And
what was great is you brought this up earlier when you first got there. First of all, I knew what I could do, and I think everybody knows that in themselves, right? So I knew any running back that was coming in was going to think that they were going to come in and just they got garbage behind them. Nah, brother. I wanted to make sure, but I wanted to be a good mentor.
Yes.
And still, I wasn't one of those guys that were like, yeah, I'm not doing that for him.
Yeah.
I wanted to make sure that whatever questions you had, whatever this, whatever that, you asked me some questions couple times where I was like, yeah, this, that. And, it's funny, even to this day, God bless my dad's soul, passed away November 29th. He would always say, Eric, you tell people too much and you give too much. And I'm like, I can only be me. Right.
Yeah.
And so at 21, 22 and getting ready to get married, going to my senior year, it's my time, but I knew I saw something in you coming in and I knew it would be your time. But listen, I wasn't going to relinquish it.
Yes, yeah,
yeah.
I didn't expect it either. And that's the time you got to earn your stripes because you did that. You earned your stripes. So why not? Have the same expectancy for the other people coming through. I mean, and I wouldn't expect anything less. I knew they were going to lay down. And if kids are being honest, when I saw you and we go on these one-on-one pass blocking against these linebackers and all this, I'm like, dude. I'm trying to cut every time, and I'm getting yelled at for cutting guys, because stay up. I only bench 265, and you throw up 4 bills. But I mean, that's the whole picture, man. Everything
takes time.
Weight room experience, just learning, man, the mental part of it, man. And it's so much. And I appreciate you handling me the way you do, just growing up here in Killeen and having my friends, they knew, how I was wound tight about football. I loved it. And there's nothing wrong with that. And when I came up there, I was just so serious. And so, and I did end up enjoying it, and it was some growing pains. And it was.
You had a tough time. I felt like that you were ready to leave at first. So I wanted to make sure that you didn't.
You're exactly right. You're exactly right. Every day was a new day. And I didn't know, what to expect, and being 10 hours away from home, and for really the first time as I was a 17-year-old freshman, and you know how it is. There's not just you, but there's guys under you that were on the team that wasn't gonna make it easy for me either. And
of course,
and that's part of it. Healthy competition, and we talk about it all the time, and that makes you better. But nobody wants to go through those growing pains. They just want to jump ahead and just
they want to jump in, man.
Yeah.
And the thing is, what comes through full fruition for me for Oklahoma, we'll go back. My freshman year, I come in as Kansas Gatorade Player of the Year. I was the #1 running back in the Midwest. That included Texas, Oklahoma, everywhere, right? Yeah. And so I got Michigan and Ohio State and Florida State, you name it, Notre Dame. So I'm playing 2 sports. So I get there. I was a little frustrated at first. I probably should have redshirted my first year if I mentally would have just said, I need to take a back seat this year because I'm physically not ready. Right? I was 183 pounds. and this,
Wow.
that, whatever. And so when you asked me your senior year, you said, well, how do you hit the hole that hard?
Yeah.
It came with just confidence, right?
Mm-hmm.
It came with
Yeah.
you're big enough, you're strong enough, you're fast enough.
Mm-hmm.
Very, nowadays everybody wants to be a freshman and they're coming in and they're playing. I get it.
Mm-hmm.
Very few freshman running back probably should ever play as a
Yeah.
true freshman, unless
Yeah.
you're just, Devin Neal's a good example. He probably could, but you're
Yeah.
talking about he was physically bigger than us,
Mm-hmm.
right? But at the end of the day, man, I still that's why I go with my son. My son's 6 foot. My son's
Wow.
6 foot 200
Wow.
pounds right now. He's 17.
That's crazy.
Right? Like,
Yeah.
if a kid like that comes in, okay, I
Mm-hmm.
get it.
Yes.
But
Yes.
then, that whole year going up to the Oklahoma game, because Oklahoma, like it came between KU and Oklahoma for me.
Mm-hmm.
And so the year before, I had a 108-yard kickoff return there.
That's
My dad's in the
crazy.
stand. He's like, no, 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 no. That he's telling me afterwards.
Yeah.
And I catch it in the middle of the dang end zone. Poop, take it to the house, right? And Isaac had a 94-yard. So I always had good games against Oklahoma. We were 3-1 against Oklahoma, 4-0 against Missouri.
Wow.
0-4 versus Kansas State.
We both share that, brother. And
Yeah.
shout out to them. They were dominant, but
They were legit.
That is a great segue into talking about that day, because I got a little video. I don't know if you can see it, but that was it. Tony Blevins went into the NFL, and that was a great day. You talk about well, I think your run's about to come up. So there's a little backstory to this run. So I had a chance to, back up EV and play. And I would get a running back series like every 4 or 5 series of Eric's. And so we're getting ready to stop them. They're punting, and the running back coach, Michael Garrison's like, you're in. And I'm like, hell yeah. And so we get pinned on the 1-yard line, and he's like, no, don't get your ass out of here. EV, go. And the very next play, he goes and ties Gale Sayers' record for longest run in Kansas history. And I'm like, that could have been me. That could have been me. Yeah, like what I have.
You're thinking that's your run.
Yeah.
But listen, you see how small that hole was and all the juking I had to do? I don't know if you'd have done that. I'm kidding. The hole was big.
Hey, but still, you're right though, because just the anxiety of the whole situation, backed up against the line. Coach Garrison is telling me this, and don't let this happen. I don't want to do this, and and you just, that's where that senior experience, like, okay. And I joke, and I think I have it later on up here. I have a picture of us on the sideline. I'm like, you took my run, and I still to this day tease you about it. But I mean, that was a big game, and there's some guys you probably see these numbers and these jerseys. People, I mean, even the quarterback for Oklahoma, Justin Fuente, who's been a head coach at the Division I level. I mean, there's guys on the field, and is that
the same guy that was a coach at Virginia Tech?
Yep, that's him.
Really?
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken. Oh, look, the freshman get some love. Hey, so I'm trying to challenge you. I took it out 5 yards deep, but then I let I think that was the kicker. And
you almost took that back.
So just trying
I knew I had to keep on my horse with you for sure. I think they gave me some grace because I was a senior. And they wanted to say, okay, well, he can learn behind me, but I think they thought you had more talent, which is okay.
Oh man,
which is fine, man. You know what I mean? It's all good. All I knew was, I knew that you were the next one coming in line, and I knew June and I always had a good relationship. All the running backs, we always had really good relationships. Whether it was LT, Mark Sanders.
That's
Bruce.
That's it right there. I'm telling you, we're gonna, just I was under you all the time, man. Just just always following you, man. So I definitely I appreciate everything, Go ahead, finish.
It was fun, but healthy relationships is great. Healthy competition.
Yeah.
When you have divisiveness inside of not only the locker room, but let's just say within a running back group, because listen, we all want to play.
Yeah.
We get that, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's nobody else's fault if somebody else is playing over somebody else, right? So it just a matter how does everybody handle it. And from the time I got there, obviously I did the same thing you did.
Yeah.
Whether it was Oklahoma or Kansas, shoot, I thought I was coming in there and played a lot, and I did. I mean, I played probably more than I should have, if that makes sense, but I think I earned it as well too, because I was like you. I worked my butt off, man. I worked a lot, and so, but June and LT, and what they don't tell you. Oh, there's 3 other running backs they had in the class too that were
Yeah,
dang good,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
And you're like,
yeah,
oh shoot, I thought I
yeah.
just had to worry about this, and I didn't realize that Mark Sanders and LT. I didn't know they were there.
And big, good looking dudes, and that's it.
Right.
And you're right about that. And I remember Coach Allen sitting the freshman class down in the Hadel Auditorium, and I remember him, just when fall camp was starting, because back in this how old we are, we had a freshman camp when it was just the freshman practicing, and everybody's getting reps and everybody's going. So then when the varsity and everybody gets there, now it's like you went from first or third in the line to 6th or 7th in the line. And I remember, he said, in a program, in a good program, that's established, you like to redshirt your whole class. And I remember sinking down in my chair like, man, I ain't, looking around,
I ain't about to do that.
Man, I ain't redshirt, but I didn't say nothing because you trying to be mature about it. But and I was like, I ain't redshirt, but I still wasn't sure. I wasn't sure because, like I said, three running backs came in my class with me. And then they had a senior in you, a junior in Julius Bruce, and 2 sophomores there, and Mitch Bowles, one of them who I ended up, battling with Tom with, and we had a little 2 running back duo because he was exceptionally gifted, But I mean, so you had to beat out the guys that were on your level, and then you had to deal with the guys that has already been in that Fred Roll program in the weight room, and so that was big. And I guess talking about it and looking back at it now, I can have a little pride about it. But I mean, every day, I wasn't sure. I didn't know, and you have guys in there, that had,
same
that was
way,
there.
like when you told me a story. So you remember, Courtney and I, my fiance at the time, my wife, 25 years now, we were going to a movie during your freshman camp, and I walked into the room. I'll reverse back to I walked back to the room. I had this cut off shirt. Now I'm benching 440.
Yes.
And I think I did 225 like 38 times or something like that. So I'm like yoked, right?
Yeah.
And I walk in, and then you had told me later, said, "Oh my gosh, I saw this dude walk in." He said, "I ain't ready to be a running back here yet."
That's it. And I remember, and I was like, "Who is that?" And you come in there, smooth bald head, just ripped up, and I'm like, "Oh, that's it. That's Eric Vann." I'm like, I know, but like, that's the running back. And I remember, man. I mean, I remember seeing your numbers up on the board in the weight room. I'm like, oh God. I said, man, what is gonna happen here? And that's when I was like, I want to go home.
Well, that happened to me my freshman year. That's why I was telling you that. I saw Mark Sanders come in, and some of these guys, I'm like, oh my God, I'm 183 pounds, man. I and you got to physically get ready for a Big 12. I don't think we understand the pounding you get, because as a running back, when you don't have the ball, you're blocking. Okay, so you're blocking guys that are 6'5", 260, 270 running the same dang time you are.
Yes. Ron Warner. We had a linebacker on our team, Ron Warner.
Right? Yeah, and I have to be the one that's going up against him in every dang practice.
Oh my!
And you ain't cutting him in practice, right?
Exactly.
You're taking, and Ron could care less. He don't care if we're friends or not. He's running directly through you. So that's the whole thing where freshmen come in from high school, and they smell themselves. I get it. They should. You should have that confidence, right? You really should. But there's so many other things that go with it.
Yeah, and you're right, and they have to understand, especially now, social media world, or how people are so critical of everything. They're like, oh, you was this in high school, and now you hadn't played this first year. Like, dude, you have no idea until you get there. And same thing like you, I wasn't Gatorade Player of the Year, but I was the #1 rusher in the state of Texas with it at the time. LaDainian Tomlinson and guys like that were in that class, and I'm like, you feel like you're feeling good about yourself, and you're like, okay, I can go play. I mean, and boom, and you really see, and we joke about it. You talk about the physicality of it. I remember we just talked about it last time. We played Cincinnati, and Cincinnati had a quiet, good physical football team, and we went down there, and they were.
Rob Ryan was the coordinator.
Yeah, they was in that 46.
My mom left the stadium. We get the ball, got crack. I mean, it was insane.
And that was a game where, as a freshman, I was like, I hope they don't put me in. You're saying that not to say that I wouldn't have went in, but
I know.
I'm seeing my senior, leader
getting tattooed
2 yards in the cloud of dust and taking some smacks, and I'm like,
mm-hmm.
he's 215 and I'm 160. What am I gonna do? So they didn't. Long story short, I didn't play running back that game. I think I played like slot receiver or something.
Yeah, I know.
That.
I remember. I had like 22 carries for 18 yards. It was like my mom literally in I think first or third quarter, first half or right at the beginning of third quarter, she left the stadium. She could not watch anymore. She was like, I can't see him take this pounding. I'm like, but you take that because you build yourself for that, right?
Yep.
As a running back, if you're not prepared for that, and that's where like some freshmen, well, it's good because you got two people now. You got two or three. You got multiple running backs. So one guy's not taking it like they used to.
Yeah.
But I will tell you the same story that happened to me when we were freshmen. When I was a freshman, we went to Nebraska in '94. Now Nebraska just won 94-95.
Gosh,
right?
yeah.
So they got the black shirts.
Yeah.
They were up, I don't know, 45-0 in like the middle of the second quarter. And it was literally 77-6 in the fourth quarter.
Wow.
Probably 10 below. Running back comes up, says, "Hey, you ready?" I'm thinking to myself, hell no, I'm not trying to go. And the black shirts are still in. He puts me in there, and I get my head cracked. I'm like,
oh man,
why would anybody want to? You think I'm excited to go in during that time?
Exactly.
But
you got to go.
Say?
Exactly.
No, I'm not gonna go in, man. Me and Madaleno Jones, we're sitting there here watching the stands. Everybody in the crowd, we chilling, right? He comes
no
up there
pressure.
like,
no pressure.
Yeah, he comes up there like, I thought we was in a dang bowl game or something. Like you ready to go in? Like,
and
really.
and that's so funny now. Coaching. I've coached for 15 years, and now I see it. I'm trying to get these. The whole room ready. I'm trying to whenever I can. Because we got the starter, but like, okay, we're not gonna beat them up anymore. Let's get this young good kid in here, get him some reps, get him some experience, let him feel what it feels like, because that was the you felt that for 4 years, because my freshman year, your senior year, they was number one in the nation with Scott Frost and Amon Green and all these other guys, and they came down there, man, to Lawrence, and it was another like, oh Lord, it was just physical football, and I love it. And we talked about it earlier, man. Like I said, the pressure is really not on kids like that now. Like we talked about carrying the ball 25, 27 times a game, being what you call the bell cow and doing that. But now there's a two back, spread, everybody spread out, and you got two good backs that play, and which is good. The game's evolving, offenses are evolving, things are changing, which is fine. But we know what we went through, and and what you had to compete. There was one person dotting the I.
Oh yeah.
And it was like, you want to play, then beat them out. I'm like,
you got to, else you're gonna sit there and get maybe 2 carries in a game.
Yeah,
you had no choice. Now everybody's spread out, like you said, and they're you're gonna get in. If you're in the top 3, there's a high probability. James Cook at Georgia was number 3.
See,
2 years ago.
And see, that's crazy,
you know what I mean.
Man.
So that everything has changed. If you think about like when we came through, or even when I was there with June. I played some slot, but you would have played a lot more as a freshman. I probably would have played a little bit more slot. Like it would have been a whole different deal, right? But that's just how everything's evolved. That's all.
You make the best of the situation. Yeah, you make the best of the situation, and you compete.
Right.
You're a competitor. You love the game. You're gonna show those coaches, hey, I'm willing. Like say, you return kicks, man, and I don't care what they say. You still got 2 of the biggest records, man. And I'm like, golly.
Yeah.
And I remember saying, okay, when EV leaves, I'm gonna break that record. No.
Well, here's the good thing is you can't break it. You can just match it.
Exactly.
That's where I was like, okay, I don't have to worry about nobody breaking it. They can just match it, right?
That is it, man.
It was just, I was fortunate to have a couple of those moments, which, very few people are going to go to NFL anyways. So those moments you have in college,
no doubt.
Those are some great moments, for sure, especially being a Kansas kid. But heck, it wouldn't have mattered if it was I wouldn't care where I was at. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like
no doubt.
those are
Exactly.
those are
Exactly.
things you can remember forever. You had some great runs. You're a great
Oh,
player.
man, I
Um,
appreciate that,
you
man.
know, I mean, I think you did a lot of the same stuff that I did, hopefully with you, which has helped the younger guys as they come through, right?
Yeah.
Because it's bigger than just you,
Yeah.
right? I mean, you're there for the university, and you
Hmm.
know how easy it would have been for me, knowing how good you were, to just let you flail away.
Yeah.
Do you know how easy that'd have been for me? You know what I mean? And unfortunately, some guys do that, and that's a sign of a bad program. You know,
Yes.
when you have
Yes.
guys on your
Yes.
team that can do it, because it'd been easier for me to say, okay, this kid's homesick, he's gonna push me. I don't want to be put. Man, let that dude go on the wayside. You know what I mean? I'm like,
Exactly. And dude, and I'm
nah,
I'm forever grateful to you because I mean it was everything. It wasn't just okay. Tell me about this play. Like say talking in the in the hotel, even everyday stuff. And like say you invited me over for dinner, and just I make a joke about that's the first time I ever ate Caesar salad was at your house, and just doing things like that, man. And
yeah,
so younger guys came behind me, and you had such a maturity about yourself, us being older now, I can look back at, kids that I coached, like to have a player that's good, but also mature about it, not threatened, and I tried to, emulate that and model that, and I remember right after me, like I said, because kids sometimes forget that, yeah, you got recruited, but they're also recruiting people behind you and behind you and
right,
behind you, and I remember Henri Childs came in as a highly touted,
yeah,
running back from Lenexa, Kansas, and we roomed together, and he was a quiet kid, and I was kind of quiet the same way. So we just talk about music and talk about things. But I mean, he was a kid that reminded me a lot of you. He had maturity beyond his years, and he handled a lot of high pressure things. As a true freshman, because he played
right,
right away. Big, good looking kid. Great. Some of the softest hands I ever seen, on a
yeah,
player like that. To be so big and can run the ball, catch, and he could catch out the backfield great. So he was able to look like a receiver in one play, and then he's in the backfield, So tried to just
doing yeah,
tell, yeah, tried to show him and give him what you gave me and just my experience as a true freshman. That was just a short year ago. And then
right,
later on, a high school teammate of mine, Reggie Duncan, came along, and that was just like being at home because me and him have been knowing each other since we were 9, 10 years old. So just trying to be a leader by example. I wasn't a big rah guy, but just try to do all the things
yeah,
right. Weight room. Show up on time, do this, practice hard. Practice even when you're hurting, and play the game hard, man. So that was just my way of doing it, and just trying to give, like you said, you gave to me, and I was giving to them, and not being threatened
yeah,
by, that's one thing I wasn't, and I think I did take that from you. I wasn't threatened by anyone taking, the spot or taking shine or whatever. It was just, I'm gonna raise my level and I'm gonna make them, make
yeah.
it hard for them to take me off the field. And while I'm here, I'm gonna run the ball, but
You
I'm
can
saying that's,
control you. You can't
yeah,
control anything
yeah,
else. That's
exactly,
it. You know, I mean, if
exactly,
you're playing well and you stay in front of it, and
yeah,
hey, I can't. The better the room is, the better the team's gonna be. It's
no doubt.
sometimes it's tough, right? Because you think you're better than somebody, or
Hmm.
you go
You
through that
think,
a
yeah, you
little bit.
think it, yeah,
You think so,
yeah,
right? Hey, listen, there's a whole different ball game when you're the starter
yeah,
and not the backup. When you're the backup, you ain't got nothing to lose.
exactly,
You go in there
exactly.
and rip one off, whatever. Yeah, see, I should be starting. Okay, let's give you the ball 20 times
Yeah,
against Nebraska in
yes,
1994.
yeah,
Okay,
handle it,
let me see
handle it.
what you do
Yep.
then.
Handle carrying the ball 4 times in a row, then picking up this blitz that's coming through. I
Right,
mean, and I mean, and, like I say, I watch you
right.
pass block. I'm like, oh my god! And I remember playing A&M one year. Dat Win, who was all world linebacker, he blitzed, and I told Zach Wagner, I said, I'm gonna do my best, and that's what I did. And I stayed up, and he ran through me like wet toilet paper, man. And I
Right.
mean, and then he grabbed Zach, but he didn't get the sack. So okay, I did my job technically, but I said, hey, next time I'm just gonna swing and just throw it to me.
Hey, and after that, you just cut him. I ain't even
Yeah,
playing.
yeah, that's it,
Somebody that
man.
big running through.
Oh my gosh,
Nah, I'm cutting
that's
them.
funny, man. But listen, man, I appreciate your time, man. We could
Yeah, good
we could
talking to you.
talk all day, man. I know we
Yeah,
didn't went over longer than I told you was gonna talk, but I
that's all
appreciate
right.
you, man. I love you, man. I thank you for everything that you've done and you are doing for me till this day, man.
Yeah,
I,
brother. I love you too, man. It was
yeah.
great. It was great rooming with you.
Oh
You gave
yeah.
me a lot. You pushed the heck out of me and gave me a lot too. So
I
it was a
appreciate it.
two. It was a two-way street. There's no doubt about that.
Oh yeah, man. Well, tell the family I said hello, man, and
Okay.
send me those clips, man, of your boy, man. I know he's
Yeah,
doing
I
his
will.
thing. Yeah, send me those clips. All right, EV, I
All right,
appreciate you,
man.
man.
Take care,
All right,
Dave.
yes,
All
sir.
right, bye.
Later. All right, that was me and my boy Eric Van, man, class of '97, man. That we could have talked all day. You know, we need to shorten this time we have with y'all, but it was good, man. So I hope y'all enjoyed that. You know, he means a lot to me, and what a stand-up dude, man. I mean, great athlete, but even better person, man. I mean, just I'm forever grateful for him. So that's it right now for the Kansas love. We're gonna move on to the next game. I don't know, you know, it I guess they played I guess they played okay, you know. It wasn't pretty, but they got it done. So we're gonna talk about those Texas Longhorns and their win over BYU this week. So tell me what you thought sitting in the stands, man.
No, man, I thought we played the defense. Hats off to them. Game ball. They played phenomenal, and you knew from the outset they were on a mission. They probably had a sense that that hat was going to be on them. You know, they had to go win this game. Special teams had to go win this game. In the event that a true redshirt freshman played as such, and I want, as much as I want to say he had some jitters. I don't want to call him jitters, man, because he came. There's a clip. I was there, but I know that there was also a clip that kind of went viral on social media about when he went out there for the first possession. I forget the song that was playing. Man, he was hopping around. He got the student section. He got the student section jumping. You know, he had a standing ovation before he threw his first
He's working
pass.
on being the people's champ, huh?
There you go. Yeah. And I think he plays into that, and I think he'll excel in that role because it doesn't take a lot for Longhorn Nation to love you. But just kind of on the technical things, like I said, defense played well, held BYU to 3 of 14 on third down, which was something we struggled with. BYU went, directly to what had been Texas weaknesses. Played the 3 high safety look, right? They tried crossing routes and mesh routes. Offense, all of those things, credit to PK. We just talked about Dabo Swinney at the top of the show. Credit to Pete Kukowski because he and defends in the game that he knew that the opposing teams would try to take advantage of, and he shut those down. And BYU had to do some things that they were uncomfortable with. They needed to try to push the ball down the field. But Malik Murphy, I thought, played well. He didn't play great, but no one did. I went back and looked. I should have wrote down the numbers, but he had a better first start than Vince Young did, right? So just by the numbers. So from that perspective, I think you did what you could ask for. On the ground, 184 yards, which again is what you need to do in these type of situations to keep him in short yardage situation, to keep him in easy throw situations, and just not put the ball in danger. CJ Baxter was great. Jonathan Brooks, man. This guy, I've never seen a running back produce the way that he is with so little hype. His numbers are comparable to Bijan Robinson.
Yeah.
And he doesn't get near. Yeah, right. He doesn't get near. He's a number 1 graded running back in all of college football by Pro Football Focus. But he just doesn't get that national love just yet. Again, I think all things handle themselves. If you keep winning, kid from Oklahoma State, Ollie Gordon may have something to say about it, but you could be looking at your 3rd consecutive Doak Walker Award winner, in Austin, Texas. So,
and like I said,
really excited to see that. Yeah.
That kid. I don't want to get off focus, but they said that kid has another game the way he had last week. He's going to be in the Heisman conversation. The kid from Oklahoma State. But go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, you're good. And one of the things that we were watching for, again, kind of viral among Texas fans is the narrative of officiating versus on the way out the door and opportunities to maybe give you one last stick it to you on the way out. But Texas, called for 6 penalties for 40 yards. BYU only 3 penalties for 20 yards. Not a huge disparity at all. So excited to see that things are getting called. I don't want to say down the middle because Ethan Burke, Byron Sorrell, Tivondre Sweat, these guys are getting held every possession. Like you could cut it up every possession. These guys are face masks, hands to the face. So maybe more of the penalties uncalled than called. But outside of that narrative, I thought Texas did what they needed to do. They played a clean game. The game was never in danger. They spaced it out a little bit at the end with that last kind of garbage time touchdown by Jaden Blue, who
big run,
celebrated
long run,
on big long run on social media. And the kids are going to have to take it in their hands because Steve Sarkisian does not, have that run it up doctrine. He doesn't believe in scoring as many points as you can. I hope that doesn't come back to hurt Texas toward the end of the season, because I think when you're in that 7 spot and you need a little, you control your own destiny, but at the same time, you need a little help. I think if it comes down to a Texas and Oregon for the 4th spot, or Texas and Washington for this 4th spot, some of the guys and gals in that room in Dallas that are going to make that decision at the end of the year, they didn't watch those games. Some of those games, they didn't watch those games. They're going to go look at the score. And they're going to let analytics dictate things. And what do analytics care about? What was the margin of victory?
Exactly. But I think that's a big part of it. And I think that's an element. If not, we're not there. I'm not an expert on how the committee does things, but you do need to watch how the game is being played, and you need to watch, like, okay, how this game was played. I'm sure Texas could have scored a whole lot more. We're not going to take any chances. We've got more football to play down the road. We're not going to put our kids in any danger. We're going to get some backups in to get some game rep experience. So I mean, the picture, and I know that's what's put pressure on a lot of coaches in the past. Like, we got to run it up, we gotta look good, we gotta make it sexy, this and that. But at the same time, you're putting kids in risk. And how many times have we seen just overall, like, this kid gets hurt on his last play trying to do something, or he gets hurt in the 4th quarter where he probably shouldn't have been in there. But then on the other hand, I'm trying to run these points up so we can get y'all what y'all want, which is to the playoffs. So I'm not going to labor on that, but I will say I did watch it as well. I thought Texas played a complete team game. I thought it was a situation where the team rallied around the quarterback in his first start. Like I told you, from a coach's standpoint, I thought he was late on some throws where some guys went and made some plays and bailed him out. And like I say, it's a different speed. Even though he took those reps with the ones all week or whatever, when you go on Saturday, it's still a step up. It's the speed is so much faster, and especially from a quarterback anticipation, reading your keys and all that plays a big part. But I thought the team did a good job rallying against him. I thought he was very poised. I didn't think he acted up when things went bad, or try to show up, or just look so just so worried or just so inexperienced out there. I think he has a even keel tone about himself. He shows some excitement, but as far as like the quarterback, you can't get too high, can't get too low. So I thought Texas did a good job of handling business. And I don't know, man. Like I said, you and I both really give BYU a lot of credit, and they're because traditionally they're always a solid team, but
they were expected. They were what I expected. They were sound. Yeah. They were where they needed to be. I thought the athletes, the physicality of Texas just prevailed. But I do give BYU credit because I thought they were where they needed to be. They made some probably not intelligent choices, punting the ball to Xavier Worthy. That's never a good idea. I don't care what kind of athletes you have. I would say the same thing if they were playing Alabama or Oklahoma. Some guys, it's just not a good idea to give them the ball in open space. Shout out to him. Made a great play that opened the game, and I thought that gave, when you're playing with a backup, when you're playing with a freshman, when you're playing with a guy that's already going into some tailwinds, they need or already kind of going into the game with some strikes against them. If you can give them a lead and before they ever touch the ball, and they can play from ahead, I think it just breeds this confidence from the whole team.
Yeah. I mean, I saw, like I say, it was definitely uncharted territory, uncharted waters for this kid. But I thought the team rallied around him well, man. And y'all got the win. But like you say, those wins and losses, as much as we give BYU credit, because Kansas and Texas both played them now, and both beating them, but those wins and losses are not going to translate. But what we see is like, BYU is a good team. They're a solid team, but we've got our own problems, as we say. So we're gonna move on. We're gonna pop on and talk about what's going on around the Big 12, or around the 12, as we say. And we recap last week. Kind of talk about what happened last week. Any surprises? Anything that stood out to you that said, hey, oh my God, you see Houston, Kansas State for the second consecutive week.
Yeah, I don't believe in transformative property when it comes to this team played that team, so that's going to dictate a result of a future game. I will say though, 41-0 from Kansas State certainly jumped out. I'm actually a little bit glad that it happened because I think you worry as a Texas fan, you're always going to worry about are they up for the game? K-State is a productive team, but they're not a name that every fan is in every household. So you always kind of worry about that. But I have no doubt that the film will catch their attention. Their ranking in the college football playoff will pay attention. A little bit of that sneaky because you have no one on the roster right now. I believe I've got to double check that, but I don't believe you've had anyone on the roster that's lost to Kansas State.
Wow.
Right.
Wow.
So you worry about, so Chris Kleinman is in year 5. He's never beaten Texas. And then I believe they beat Coach Schneider in his last year as well. So you worry about that a little bit because it's hard to get up for a team and take a team serious that you've always beat, and majority of those games the final score hasn't been particularly close. So you worry about that. But like I said, I think this game film will stand out, and I don't think the coaches will. I think they'll coach them hard this week, and I don't think they'll have any problem being focused. That was the only game that kind of stood out. West Virginia, they keep winning. Shout out to Neil Brown. I think he was coaching for his job this year, and he's looking to be bowl eligible. So I think he's bought himself some time. Matt Campbell, I thought we talked about as well. Another guy came into the year, with the potential to get run out of town. And I think we had some not you and I, but had some conversations within the college football ecosystem where he allegedly passed on the Detroit Lions job, passed on the Nebraska job to stay at Ohio State in the hopes of a Michigan or an Ohio State opening up. And I thought at the time was really Iowa State. Thought at the time that was a foolish decision. But that old adage, betting on yourself, man. It's hard to go wrong betting on yourself.
Yeah, he did. Yeah. You're right. Just looking at these scores, like I say, Oklahoma State, they're rolling. They're starting to catch something. I mean, they beat Kansas, and this kid, this Ollie Gordon, he is, over 600 yards in the last 3 games, should I say?
3 games. Yep.
Yeah, that's tough, and they're putting up some numbers, man. But like you talked about earlier with Kansas and Texas, kind of previewing that, how it's always been. Well, that's starting to kind of. Well, not kind of, but it's going away because now with the new Houston and Kansas State don't have a big historical, matchup, things that you can go back to and historically in the Big 12 and say, oh, this is where it's always been. Texas and BYU don't have that. Central Florida, West Virginia, they don't have those, Iowa and Baylor, those are classic, staple Big 12 teams, but Cincinnati, Oklahoma State, so like you say, you've got to get up no matter what, because they're, like you say, historically, we've always handled them. No, this is all new Big 12, and it's going to be a new Big 12 again next year, so there was some scores there, and I watched the Baylor Iowa State game, man. It was just I don't want to say bad luck, but just it was a rainy game. It was wet, it was cold, and that ball was slippery, and it was just foot in your mud. Like they were running so sluggish out there because it was raining so hard, man, and the ball was heavy and it was wet. You couldn't really throw it and do things like that. So I say I'm a fan of Baylor staff. I think that they'll keep fighting, and Coach Aranda is one of the best, to do it, and he'll find a way, man. And like I say, that's another guy that's even killed. You're not gonna rattle him. He's gonna find a way to pull his troops together, and they're gonna come out. I think they're gonna finish strong. Iowa State. You got to go to Ames. We're gonna kind of get into that a little later on, but yeah, that's what's going on. You want to look forward this week? Talk about some games this week.
Yeah, let's talk about what's coming up.
Okay, so tomorrow, look at that. Tomorrow, TCU, Texas Tech. What do you think?
Oh yeah, Coach McGuire will tell you the Big 12 still runs through Lubbock, so go Horned Frogs.
I know you're gonna say that.
No, but I'm really excited for Saturday, man. I don't think I've been this excited for other games outside of who Texas is playing in a very long time. Yeah. But you've got this log jam where these top teams are playing each other. 5 all 5 of the 4-1 teams have an opportunity to win and an opportunity to lose. So it makes for some compelling TV for around the 12.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. It's crazy that Bedlam's being played so early. Like I said, we talked earlier. Me, I'm a traditionalist, and just to, not to have these games played last, even the Texas A&M game. Just those things. I mean, you got Kansas State, Texas, which will be at that game. This weekend. Bedlam. We talked about Houston. Baylor's got another home game. So hopefully they can bounce back. We'll see. Houston is always scary. Such a Florida, Cincinnati. That's the newcomers, so we'll see what the newcomers do. Obviously I'm looking at and got highlighted the Kansas Iowa State game in Ames in November at night. It's never tough, and I think actually we talked about it earlier. I think the
it's
Cyclones
never tough or it's
favorite.
never easy.
Yeah, and they're favorite. Even though we're coming off one of the biggest wins this season, that's fine. And BYU, heads to West Virginia, so there's some good football, man, and we love the 12. And even though there's some treason going on with Texas leaving the Big 12, we'll focus on this year. But yeah, it's some big time games coming up, man. And like I say,
bag is heavy, man. They've carried the league for years. It's time to go be amongst your peers.
I'm gonna leave that alone. What we got coming up next, man? I'm gonna briefly talk about the Kansas Iowa State game and break down a couple of things, a couple plays, and we'll get into some chalk talk and really talk about the keys and some things that Iowa State defense gives you. That's that famous 3-3-5. Some people call it an amoeba defense, and see some strengths and weaknesses of that, and what Kansas has to do also to defend Iowa State, because their quarterback, he has some legs too, and they've got some guys that go and make plays. So we'll get into that right now. All right, now we're going to get into Iowa State's defensive personnel, just kind of get you familiar with how they'll line up and how they'll label their guys on the field with this 3-3-5. Right here, you have defensive end, nose, another defensive end. You have what you call the will linebacker or the weak side linebacker, the Mike or middle linebacker, and the Sam or the strong side linebacker who usually lines as an overhang. If they had another receiver over here, if this guy was a little more attached from the line, they would probably walk out the will. But you have the Sam or the overhang or the nickel Sam linebacker, so he could be named a lot of different things. You have corner could be boundary safety, field safety, and then the middle safety or star or whatever they designate him by name. Okay, so that's primarily how Iowa State will line up to an offensive formation with that personnel most of the time. Now we're going to show the play. So we're going to get motion, slight move from the middle safety, but it doesn't go that far. They're going to run a speed option. And where Iowa State usually is a strength, running to the outside, because they'll have an overhang and a safety capped over him. When I say capped, I mean lined up on top of the Sam linebacker, so they can disguise a look of maybe him capping over the linebacker because the linebacker is going to come, or just lined up over him by a lineman if they're on the hash or offset somewhere. So right here you see they run speed option. Let's go to the wide real quick. Just look at this play, how Kansas tries to attack that. So they're going to go push crack to the middle safety. This guy lined up over the inside receiver or number 2 receiver is the pitch man. Out here on the number 1 receiver, he's going to push and crack to the safety here. And this guy's probably in man. That's what they're counting on. And he's going to follow. So that takes him out of the play, or that gets him out of position and gives Kansas leverage, what they need to be on his outside shoulder, their inside shoulder, so they can get a good clean block. We see the play. Crack. He avoids him, gets a piece of that guy, springs Devin Neal for a nice gain. All right, we're going to look at a situational down right here. 3rd and short. Kansas is in a kind of a funky deal right here, but I've watched them for a while. So this is kind of their hurry up, run to the line, and snap the ball. Now you see the personnel is already out there, somewhat lined up for Iowa State. You got your 3 down linemen right here. You've got your 3 backers right here. You've got your corner, safety, middle safety, safety, and corner. Okay, so if this was a base down and these safeties were a little further back, but they wouldn't be any further back than about 9 yards, so they can play aggressive on the run, but still have enough space to get back to play the pass. Now, this is a great tendency call right here. It's an aggressive 3rd and 1, 3rd and short. They're going to give a rundown formation, if that's a good way to say it. But, analytics and tendencies will say they're probably going to run it on 3rd and 1 to get the first down and move the chains. You see Kansas runs in a quad bunch formation, crossing routes off the release, gets the fullback on the linebacker, doesn't even see him. First down, big gain. Iowa State kind of got lost trying to line up. You'll see here in the end zone view, boom, 32 gets lost, dumps it to him, gets the first down and much more. Okay, here's another clip right here. A 2x2 set. When I say 2x2, what I mean by that is 2 receivers on each side of the formation. You got 1 back in the backfield. This could be 10 personnel or it could be 11 personnel, depending on if there's a tight end in the game or not. Okay, so they've got them spread out, and this is what I talked about a little earlier with the backers walking out, playing in coverage, but also having safeties capped over them. So they run this and they line up like this. A lot of times in these offenses these days, they run a lot of RPO, run pass option, and a lot of times the linebackers are the reads in these run pass options. So now what Iowa State has done defensively is they've capped the safeties over them, so the linebackers don't get lost in space, and they still have a defender over the top, and they have someone to defend that receiver if the linebacker bites on the play action or the run action, and they go, but they still have a safety over the top to protect that. So that's a very sound reason for running this type of defense. So we're going to look at this play right here and see what happens. So Kansas motions to a 3x1 now. So 3 receivers on one side, 1 on the other. And you'll see how that pulls 2 safeties over 3 on top of the corner and the linebacker. So just based off of glancing at this, it looks like they're in a cover 3. What I mean by cover 3 is thirds. This corner has this deep third, this corner has a middle third, and then this corner has a deep third. Probably the backers have the flats, and this middle backer probably has a hook curl, and this safety probably comes down and plays the hook curls as well. So you're going to see a little confusion over here, which opens up a curl route for the receiver down here. You see some bad eyes right here, a little confusion. Safety didn't know if he wanted to go run to the flat, which is his responsibility. Linebacker kind of gets flat-footed, gets his eyes on the quarterback, and there's a window that opens up right behind him, hits our tight end. Good gain. So we talked about how Iowa State's going to line up. So let's just look at it right now. Ball's on the 10-yard line, and 2 of the safeties are on the 17, 18, maybe 19-yard line. So that just, reaffirms talking about how they line up closer to the ball to be able to play both pass and run. In the run game, I think Kansas will have a lot of success in their gap schemes, counter games, GF, whatever you want to call it. Right here, we motion over. We actually have 7 for 5 versus that run box, so that's favorable for us number-wise. We get a body on a body. We get guys turned up. We actually hold the overhang backer with the quarterback action for the threat of him pulling it out the back door and going around the corner. So down, gap, running back does a good job of sticking his foot and getting vertical and getting a great gain. Right here, we're going to look at Iowa State's quarterback in the 3rd and short situation. Here they're going to run quarterback right here, 3rd and 3, they get the first down. So that's one situation where they run the quarterback and use his legs. They come back here on another 3rd and short, similar action. They boot him out, move the pocket, throw. That's a tendency breaker. I think also something to look for on 3rd down and short, 3rd and medium is the quick game. Becht is a talented kid. He's a freshman, but he knows how to get rid of the ball quickly. He uses his legs well, and those are some of the things that I think will be key to Kansas getting the win over Iowa State. Stopping the quick game and containing his quarterback run and just watching how they move the pocket to get him on the edge to give him run pass options. All right, so we're about to wrap this thing, man. It's been fun. What we're going to end off with, we're going to get just a few predictions. I mean, riding high. Like I say, I'm not a gambling man, but just what we think. And I'm gonna let you go ahead and go first, Eric.
Yeah, so Texas versus Kansas State, I believe the old adage of the biggest jump from your quarterback and teams comes between game 1 and game 2. So Malik Murphy's game 1, I expect him to be better in game 2. I expect the defense to show up again as well. Kansas State relies a lot on the run. So our first down rush defense has got to be phenomenal. It has to be. We can't turn the ball over because Kansas State, again, like BYU, but better. They're fundamental. They're going to be where they need to be. They're not going to beat themselves. So I've got a bit of a lower scoring game, but I got Texas coming out on top 38-28. I got Texas winning by double digits, but close. Mm-hmm. And I think another game I'm looking at is I'm curious to see how USC responds with Washington coming into town. I think that's going to be a really big game for Cliff Kingsbury. That defense is much maligned, but it always seems like a team's struggles tends to go a different way in the biggest game of the year. And thus far, this is their biggest game of the year. So I expect their defense to come up with a couple of turnovers. I expect their offense and the maligned Caleb Williams to not only show that he's still very much interested in playing college football, but playing it to win. So I really look for them to also pull out not a double-digit win, probably I'll give them 7. It'll be a high scoring game though. I'll give USC 51 and I'll give USC 51. I'll give Washington 43.
Whoa. That's a lot. Yeah.
Hey, Washington hasn't been playing good defense as of late. This will be the best offense that they've played all year. Even better than Oregon. I love Bo Nix. I'm a big Dan Lanning guy. Other than him, kind of talking bad about Coach Prime. But other than that, I think this will be the best offense they've played all year. Yeah.
Yeah. And obviously, and if correct me if you don't agree or disagree, 2 of the top 5 quarterbacks in the nation facing off, if not top 3. 2 out of the top 3. I mean, golly, those boys those 2, they're phenomenal. But yeah. All right. Well, I'll be interested.
What do you got? What do you got for the Texas-Kansas State game?
Well, this is hard. This is hard. Anybody that knows me, my disdain for Kansas State being a player. I've grown up, so, and like I say, Coach Kleiman is an old coach of mine, so I love him to death. So, I wish nothing but the best. K-State's been rolling 80+ points in the last 2 games over the last 2 opponents. Obviously, Texas defense is much, much better than the last 2 games they've faced. I don't know. I see Texas, man, getting some lanes in the throwing game now. With week 2 of this young player, young quarterback starting Murphy, starting, I think he'll be a lot sharper. I think he'll be a lot faster on his reads. I think Mitchell and Worthy are hard to cover, man. If you can't get pressure on this guy, and I think not just Jonathan Brooks being a great runner, but I think he's great in the pass protection game, and that's what a young quarterback needs is time and confidence. That he's not about to get blindsided. So I see Texas scoring at least 35 points, and I see K-State. If they like to run the ball, that might take a little time off the clock, but I'm looking for it to be 35-25 Texas.
I'll take it.
I don't think it's not gonna all be 6s and 7s. There's gonna be some 3s because it's gonna be a hard-nosed game. Now, that's my prediction, 35-25, but you watch that first play in that first series, man, and something could change. So, we'll see. We'll see. Of course, my last game I'm gonna predict is the good old game, my Jayhawks against Iowa State Cyclones in Ames at 6 o'clock. The Cyclones are favorite. Weather doesn't seem to be issue. It's gonna be cold. I mean, it's Kansas, or it's Iowa, but these kids live in Kansas, so that shouldn't be an issue. It could be windy, man. The way that stadium is orientated, man. I mean, I remember years ago, walking out the Jack Trice Stadium, man, and you come from around that locker room and that wind punches you in the face, man, and it is cold. It does something to you. It takes your breath away. But I think our boys are ready for it. I think we're playing high. I think we're playing with a lot of confidence. We've got some good momentum going. I think Coach Leipold and the assistants do a good job of keeping our kids here. There's always in the world of Kansas football, there's always they did good this game, but the next game they did this. Funny enough, I'll talk about myself because it's me. We had a big game. Like I said, I talked about the upset in homecoming when I was there and the goalpost came down and we beat Colorado, and it was big game, big upset. We do this. I had all these yards rushing. The O-line was opening lanes. We're throwing the ball. We beat Colorado, I think 33-17 off the top of my head. Well, now we've got K-State coming to town the next week, and K-State is good. Michael Bishop and I don't think Darren Sproles is there yet. Darren Howard. There's a lot of guys I could name that are not playing in the league anymore either. But Michael Bishop is definitely a name people know. And I don't even know. I don't even remember the score of that game. I blocked it out, but it was bad. It was bad. That's all I gotta say. It was on Halloween, and
you remember it wasn't good.
It wasn't. It was in the freezing rain, and I mean, I went from I think 29 carries or 28 carries for 268 yards to 11 carries for 12 yards. So what a difference a week can make. So that's kind of been the deal. But I think these guys have, as a team, have surpassed those type of issues, those type of curses about what, like you play here this week and then you're playing back down here. So I look for my Jayhawks to be able to run their offense. Like I said, this 3-3-5 is going to be somewhat of a challenge because you don't see that often. So you got to just know what the strengths and weaknesses are of, attacking, inside. And, these safeties they're going to trigger downhill fast, and they've always got a middle of the whole player that they're able to play with 3 safeties. And I just hope they don't do too much to confuse our quarterback. And, I'm not going to get into who the quarterback could be because I'll go to war with either one of them. So, Jason Bean has done more than enough to prove himself. Defensively, when we can't get pressure with Austin and those D-line guys and, our linebackers with Miller running around, our corners have got to be able to, stay on these receivers. And they do. Our linebackers got to do a good job of containing this quarterback. This kid has legs like Dylan Gabriel. He can run. He can extend plays with his legs, and he is not afraid. He's not a slider either. So, we've got to not allow him to extend plays to, put our defenses in bad situations. But score-wise, I think our Jayhawks going to put up at least 30 points. So I'm looking for the score to be 32-24. 32-24 Kansas. And that sounds close, but I don't think it'll look or feel that close. I think our Jayhawks are going to go in and handle business. So 32-24 Kansas in Ames.
I don't know if I can put a score on it because there's so many variables. We don't know what the weather's going to be. Don't know the starting quarterback's going to be. Candidly don't know which Iowa State team's going to show up when they're dealing with all the kids and starters that they went through all off-season camp with and everything, and they're dealing with all those kids out, which no one's going to cry any tears for them. No one's going to cry any tears for any of these teams in the Big 12 because everybody's got their own problems. But I really do believe in Matt Campbell. I think he's great. I believe in that environment in late November. As a Texas fan, I've got my own Halloween scary stories from going to Jack Trice Stadium at night. But all that to say, I believe in Coach Leipold a little more. I've got Kansas in a really close one. But like you said, I don't think you'll ever feel like the game's in doubt. Yeah, Iowa State will hang around just simply by as fundamental as they are and the way that they play defense. But I expect Kansas to kind of step into who they're showing they can be as a program. They can show up and play against anybody, anywhere. So I think it's high time that they step into that. So I look forward to that.
So you don't have a score. You just think Kansas is going to win, huh?
I know. I believe that Kansas will win close. I don't even know what the under is, but I'd take the under. Okay. Because this could be it could realistically be a 21-17 game.
Yeah.
It could be, it could be one of those because you've got teams that are extremely fundamental that don't beat themselves. And oftentimes you've got teams that, maybe Texas, for example, for all of their athletes, they will make boneheaded mistakes. They will have offensive and defensive lulls that kind of will make the game have peaks and valleys. But Kansas and Iowa State don't really have that, right? They're pretty consistently fundamental throughout the whole game. So I think a low score could hold true.
It is. You're right about that. I think last year Kansas won 14-11 in Lawrence. And I think just looking at the film offensively, I think we only ran 49 plays. 49 plays in the college football game is not much, but I say 14-11. That was a very low scoring game. It was a physical game, and we had a big play pop, and that was the difference. So I mean, you're spot on with that. I think
it's going to be a lot of runs with the new clock rules, right? I don't expect there to just be a ton of possessions. Now, if Jason Bean's able to get around the corner and Kansas is able to score quick, I think you have an opportunity of maybe the score getting away from, but I expect Iowa State to keep contained and do all the little things.
That offense, man, they just score points. And a week ago or 2 weeks ago, looking ahead or looking into that week against Oklahoma, by no means would anybody have said, not to say that I think I know, but would have said that Kansas is going to score close to 40 points on Oklahoma's defense. Nobody would believe that. So I think it's a testament to Coach Kolenecki, just, how innovative he is and the things he's done, man, and just to get what he's gotten out of our kids. And these kids, it's a fun offense, man. They love it. They're flying around, moving around, shifting, motioning, all this orbit stuff. But yeah, we'll talk about that. But cool, man. Well, I'm looking forward to it, man. Saturday's coming fast. I appreciate you as always, man, doing this. This is our second one. Hopefully it's better. Hopefully we kept you guys' attention a little more. We're not going to hold you any longer. I don't have anything else. Eric, you got anything?
I'm good, man. Hook 'em horns, baby.
All right, man. Until next time. Appreciate it. Rock chalk. Later.
Hey.